Welcome to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Hey, Eric. I'm Mark.
Thank you for
1 out of 5 actually proper introductions isn't bad.
Yeah,
It's the best I can do.
20% success rate for you is not bad at all.
Mhm.
I think. Welcome to another episode of Lorehammer Lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
We've been pumping this out faster than a rabbit has babies. I've been working on that one for a while now.
Uh-huh.
How do you think it went?
Well,
Excellent.
No complaints on my end.
Excellent. Joining us today is another remote person. What better time to entertain the notion that we might at some point have remote people on than a time where we can't see people?
Yeah.
Right? So
with that, introducing, you know him. You've heard of him. You love him? Maybe, hopefully. Woody.
Hey everyone. So you can't see it, but my arms are up in the air like a champion.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
In my head, there's some gladiatorial arena music going on.
Freddie Mercury is singing in the background.
Yeah.
People always joke that Maru on our Discord is the Lorehammer mascot, but it's actually you, Woody. You've been around longer. You've done more for us.
You're just not as cute as a meerkat.
I'm not even upset by that.
Maru, we didn't mean it. Come back.
I'm sorry.
So we're doing another, we're streaming live on Instagram Live right now. So there will be some questions that pop up while we're just doing this episode. For example, this one, are you and Eric 6 feet apart? To that, I reply,
yes.
Almost never. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, but Canada goes by the metric system. So 6 something. Yeah, they're fine.
6 centimeters.
Sure, I'll take it.
Take what I can get.
I don't want it, but I'll take it. But so this episode, we're just going to talk to Woody. We got a couple of conversation parts. I think it's going to be very, a lot of like, what if this happened? Well, what if this happened? Well, how about that? Did you think of this?
Very speculative.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
My goal is to upset a lot of people.
It's not hard on a podcast.
Yeah. So, Woody, for those of you who don't know, I think you were like one of the very first people that ever messaged Lorehammer. You were definitely
very, very, very first. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was on my way. I'd been listening to you guys for a while. I think I found you on Reddit or something. I don't remember. And I was on my way from North Dakota to Maryland. So it's like a 27-hour drive or something like that. And I was like, I don't normally do this, but I got a bone to pick with you guys because you had just talked about like Mark had said something like, talking about the Beast series or something, and there was no huge outcome. The whole series was pointless. And I was like, excuse me, they wiped out an entire chapter. And you were like, yeah, but did they though? And I wrote out this huge long email about it, and I hit send, and I was like, yeah, they probably won't say anything. And yeah, you guys did. And you were like, oh yeah, but here's why we thought this. And you may not know about this about me, but I'm incredibly loyal. If you reach back to me, I'm like, I love you forever.
Yeah. No, you're one of the few people. I have like 3 people that I talk to on like a fairly consistent basis, and you're one of them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, am I in that?
No.
Damn.
Consistent.
Yeah. That makes sense. Woody seems like a much nicer person than I am.
Well, that's not true. But, that nobody needs to know that. I'm a terrible person.
We just got asked a question. Will you ever have a guest on the show? I felt that one was particularly worth answering. What do you think?
No.
Yeah, that's a very strong no coming from me. Yeah.
Oh.
So, Woody, what do you were you in 40K before you discovered Lorehammer, or
yes,
you were kind of just getting in?
So it's a weird story, but yeah, I had been in 40K, the like lore wise for a couple years, and then hobby wise, I think for like a year when I finally found you guys.
Okay, so you definitely had a good enough understanding. So what exactly do you like about 40K? Like, what brought you in? What kept you interested?
So what brought me in is a long time ago, so like 2007, a bookstore in my hometown was closing. So they had everything crazy on sale. And I absolutely judge books by covers. If your cover doesn't look cool, I'm not going to read your book. Plain and
Ooh.
simple. Sorry. Um, so
So
I
then you
saw,
won't like my personal memoir book then.
well, if your face is on it, that's okay.
It's not his face. It's just a picture of a thumbs up. But like How I Made It by Mark.
Then yeah, I won't read that. I'll be like garbage. But I found a book for 40 cents, and it had a picture of uh it's a Gaunt's Ghost book. I'll just throw that out. But the picture is like two dudes running away from an explosion. And I was like, this looks pretty cool. And it's 40 cents. So I bought it and I started to read it. Not realizing it was like the 9th book in the series. So that kind of got me hooked. And then from there, I was just like, oh, what is this Warhammer 40K? And then from there, I discovered the games and then more books. And then a long time down the road, the models.
It must have been very misleading. Like, oh, Warhammer's so cheap, only 40 cents for a book.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to buy your first miniature and you're like, oh, you add 2 zeros onto that number.
Well, the miniature came like 11 years later. And the first miniature I bought was remember the old like $15 Space Marine packs? It just comes with 3 generic Space Marines.
Yeah, sure.
I bought those because I was like, I like to make models. Cool, I'll build these Marines. And I painted it, and it was garbage. I was using the wrong paints and everything.
Yeah.
And then a year after that, I pulled the trigger and bought a Start Collecting box, and have been dumping my money ever since.
So are you primarily Space Marines then?
Yeah. Because that's what I have the most of, but I also my army choices are heavily influenced by what I'm currently reading. So I started reading Tau, so I bought the Tau Start Collecting box, and then I started reading Death Watch, so I bought the Death Watch Start Collecting box.
So you are literally the perfect customer for Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I read some Mechanicus book, and I was like, I need to go buy these. So then I bought the Kill Team box.
Good enough.
Yeah, why not?
So you're one of the few people I know that has actually read like all of Gaunt's Ghosts.
How many books is that?
It's like 13 or something.
I think it's like 13 or 14 right now. Yeah, I love those books. I love the author so much that again, because I'm super faithful, I reached out to him and he emailed me back. So I love him forever now. Yeah, I found some old blog page that he had, and he was just talking to like a chat group, and he's like, yeah, if you guys have any questions, email me. So I did. I was like, hey, I really love your books. They helped me through kind of a weird time. Why did you do this and this and this? And again, kind of like with you guys, I was like, he'll never respond to me. Dude sent me an email like the next day. He's like, oh, hey man, thanks so much for reading my book. This is why I did this. And I was like, you're my favorite. Will you please sign this book? So I mailed him that first book that I bought.
Really?
And and he sent it back. And on the front page, to Woodrow, he crossed out his name. He wrote "The Emperor Protects," and they signed it.
That is so cool.
Yeah, he sent me a little Tanith First and Only keychain, like their emblem.
Okay.
And ever since then, I was like, this is awesome. And then fast forward a couple years, and the 2 omnibuses. Anyway, Omnibuy, the 2 Omnibuy.
Yeah.
I had those, and he was like going through his collection, whatever, and he reached out to a bunch of people, and I reached back out to him, and I now own his personal library collection of the first 2 hardcover Omnibuys.
That is very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's stamped, personal library of Dan Abnett.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about 40K or most people in it. Like everyone, we all just want to talk 40K with each other.
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
It's all just like this
Yeah.
crazy author who isn't even just known for doing 40K stuff still just wants to talk 40K with you. You know?
Yeah. And he got into it too. I was like, hey man, why? I emailed him again after reading his books. And keep in mind, these books have been out forever.
Yeah.
And so I'm emailing him about something he wrote 15 years ago. I'm like, why did you kill this guy? And he's like, man, imagine how I felt killing him. And I was like, oh, you're right. My bad.
So what about the Gaunt's Ghost? Like I haven't read any of them. What do you like about them? What draws you in? Why is it such an amazing story? Because it seems to be genuinely loved by most 40K people.
I hear it very repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, probably overall for like the majority of people I think it's one of the longest running Imperial Guard series like that focuses on one thing. It isn't just a collection of stories.
Yeah.
But then also I like it because it was my first 40K book ever, so it's kind of got that special place in my heart for that. I like the way that the Tanith first and only, I like the way they fight. I've always been like the kind of let's go stealthy. Like in Skyrim, I'm the stealthy archer. I like the sneaky run up and stab them in the back. I like that they're kind of the outcasts of the Imperial Guard, because they're a brand new regiment, right? They don't have any history, and they're fighting alongside of people that have these millennia of histories, and everyone's just kind of like, oh, look at these guys. They don't have nice, crisp, pristine uniforms. They have, their sleeves are cut off. They've got tattoos everywhere. I picture them as the 40K Scots, like in Braveheart. So I kind of like that, and that kind of also goes into my current job. I'm kind of that like outside. I'm not the cleanest in my job or whatever. My career field. So I like that. Like I said, I like that they're the sneaky boys. And Gaunt himself is really intriguing to me because he's a colonel and he's a commissar. So
that's very rare. Like he might be the only one.
Yeah. There's a couple of them, and you run into them in the series. Like there's a general commissar, and I think it's cool how it's written that he cares about these guys. And that's another thing. And I know a lot of people don't like this about 40K because it's not grimdark, but I like that he cares about his people. And he's not just like, oh, 100 of you go over there and die, whatever.
Yeah.
But everyone else is trying to do that to him, and he's overcoming things. I like that it's
like even though 40K is a grim dark setting, without rays of hope in it, it wouldn't be enjoyable. Like if it was just grim dark all the time, like it would be a little much.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things about 40K is it's so absolutely depressing and terrible that anytime a little person offers I'm actually a good person.
Oh, this guy didn't just shoot me.
Right, exactly. Like, oh my God, like what an amazing person they are.
Yeah. But it's because I've read some 40K stories that are like, oh, the roses are red and everything's good and all these guys are, and you're just like, that's just not believable. I like that the Gaunt's Ghost, it's a ray of hope, but then every time you're like, oh man, their life's pretty good, it gets slapped back down.
Yeah.
And it's about a 50-50 spread of it's the bad guys beating him down and it's the Imperium beating him down.
Yeah, like from what I know about the series, like you can't get attached to any character except for Gaunt.
Yeah,
lots of characters die in that book. Lots of you emailed the guy and you're like, why did you kill him?
Oh my God, and I've never been so. I've never hated an imaginary character as much as some of the characters he's made in his books, to where like I'm literally, as I'm reading about the scene or whatever, it's like stressing me out.
Sure, you hate him so much you're stressed.
I absolutely, and then you're just like, there's been a couple times in the series where I've had to like put the book down and like go for a walk just because I'm like. It sucks me in. It's so well written. Dan Abnett is a great author. and another thing that I like about it, and this is more speaking to him as an author than the series, is, you write 14 books over 20 plus years, you're going to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oops, I made a mistake, and then pressing on like it never happened, he actually turned it into a plot point of the story.
Okay.
So spoilers if you haven't read this 20-year-old book, but
I have not, Woody.
We only learned about 40K 15 years ago.
Yeah, God.
But a character that you meet in the series, pretty midway in the series, has two sons, and then like 3 or 4 books later, he has a son and a daughter, and everyone's like, "Wait a minute, no." And then like in his last couple books, he writes the character as like, like he's going through some weird stressful things, and he's like, oh no, I didn't have a daughter, what am I doing? And he writes it as a really, really interesting plot point that this guy starts to remember that, no, I had 2 sons, like, who are you, who's his daughter?
That is actually very cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I won't say any more, but because the book where like that whole plot line ties up it's really well written, but it's a fairly new book, so I don't want to ruin it.
So that is your favorite. I mean, you have a connection with the author, which is cool in and of itself, but that is also just your favorite series in 40K?
Yeah.
So what, if you had to sum up, like, because it's Tanith first and only, what would be, what makes them different than any other guard regiment? You're kind of saying they're stealthy, but like other guard regiments can be stealthy. So what is the one thing that's like really uniquely them?
So the Tanith first and only, and we're gonna run into this with Cadia pretty soon. They're all that's left of the Tanith. Their planet was destroyed, and of the 3 regiments that were supposed to be mustered, that one was the first was the only one that made it out.
Yeah.
So there's a finite amount of Tanith guardsmen.
Sure.
And one of the every guard regiment has their characteristics. So the characteristics of the Tanith are, they're super stealthy, which a lot of them are, but they make really, really good scouts, because it is impossible, unless there's like warp magic messing, that it's impossible for them to get lost, because, and they don't flesh this out very well, but the trees on Tanith move.
Okay.
So like, when they're out hunting and stalking and all that, they have to have this crazy sense of direction and where they are, because the trees move, so you can't trust the trees.
Sure.
Which makes them really, really good at trench warfare, tunnel warfare, makes them really, really good scouts.
Yeah, almost like there's something like genetic in that planet in all of them. Because like you do meet people, like my wife is directionally impaired as all can be, but me, you toss me anywhere, I'll find my way home.
Well, as long as he can smell plastic.
I'll find it. Yeah, but like there are some people like that are like legitimately like don't know directions or like where they are. So that's kind of cool. Like it's cool that they don't come out and say that, but it kind of lets you like think, oh yeah, well, okay, sure.
Yeah. They've snuck up on everyone. They've snuck up on like word bearers. I think what's that? It's like a dark Eldar assassin, Heldrake, Mandrake.
A Mandrake, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the top scout sergeant, his name is McCall. He out stealths a Mandrake, and it's like a very gung-ho action scene, but like the Mandrake is like, oh, I'm gonna get him, and he like stabs into because they all wear their camo cloaks. He stabs into this camo cloak, and then he's like, what? And he turns around, and the scout sergeant's right there, and he's like, yeah, you're all right at stealth, and then just point blanks him in the face.
Yeah, like some of the scenes are a little over the top, but that's also kind of endearing sometimes. Like I know a couple times like some guardsmen beat Chaos Space Marines in close combat, but at the same time it's kind of like, you know what?
It's the whole thing about like how 1 in a million happens 9 out of 10 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like this thing, it's totally possible it would happen. It's not probable, but because we're reading about it, it just like we're just happening to see this instance. Like, so yeah, like as much as I don't enjoy hearing about how,
let me tell you a different story.
No.
Million guardsmen died before this one incident happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was really, I don't know. I like viewing that more as a accident as much as an intentional thing, or like he just got lucky. But I'm sure, like I'm not also as attached to this series as you are. So
well, and they only fight Space Marines like twice, and I mean Space Marines only show up maybe 4 or 5 times in the whole series.
That's good, actually.
It's very guard focused, and I think, and another thing I like is that it shows just how badly the Space Marines are doing, because I think this takes place in like 720 M40, so it's not close to the 13th Crusade or all that, but at one point they're talking to these 3 Space Marines from 3 different chapters, and they're on like their battle barge, and the Iron Snakes, which is one of Dan Abnett's chapters, is like, man, look at this space hold. Back in the day, this would have been filled with Space Marines. Space Marines are dying, and you're like, oh, okay. So I like that too, because it's not bolter porn. It's like, oh, the Space Marines aren't actually doing as well as what they're in other series written to be doing. Like the Space Marine is lamenting basically that we're a dying breed. It's up to you guys to carry on the Emperor's light.
That is one thing. Like we get messages all the time, like, why don't we talk about Space Marines? Why don't we? And I always respond like, yeah, they're not that big a part of a setting.
They're one of the coolest things in the setting.
They're one of the coolest things, but there's only a million of them.
There's not that. They're not very popular in the setting.
Yeah, and sure, lots of battles like revolve around them, but billions revolve around guardsmen. They're the ones doing actually all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and I think it's more impressive when a guardsman does something crazy, because you're like, okay, well, a Space Marine is literally bred to do that, whereas a guardsman is just us. Like, okay, well, I guess I'll take this laser pointer and go take this hill.
Might as well.
Got nothing better to do.
Yeah. If you had like one pet peeve, maybe other people don't have pet peeves the same way I do. What would be one thing you dislike about Gaunt's Ghost?
It's too short.
Not enough books.
No, that's not it. Honestly, the biggest pet peeve I have, but I understand why he did it, was they eventually they got issues this edict or whatever to start taking in other people, like new recruits, basically.
Sure. So
the Tanith first and only are now, it's like Tanith and Belladon and some other planet that I can't remember. So so it's no longer like, so now they're all Tanith, but they're really not, and it kind of takes a little bit away from the, hey, this is it, because up to that point, hey, when person A died, that they're gone. There is no, like, that named character is now dead. Oh, there's now this one's dead too. Yeah, but now it's kind of like, oh, well, we have these guys.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it's like, I don't really like that, because I'm a big fan of like, not failing, but like, hey, this has to end. And I don't like the magic bullet of, oh, boom, now we have more guys, and now I'm starting to see the problem with Primaris.
No,
talked myself right out of that one.
Yeah, no, that's like you've grown to love the characters, and you feel the loss when they die, but now it's just not quite as impactful.
Well, I don't know. I think you can view that the other way as well. Like it's a thing of necessity. Then, like, if Gaunt is making that decision to allow other people in, he's not doing it because he's like, oh, I'm really happy to do this. Sure. Like, I'm sure that we have the perspective of, oh, it's a dilution of what you were.
Yeah.
To assume that person also doesn't share that perspective. Yeah. Like they might be just as crushed at what they're doing. right?
Yeah.
But they're just like, man, this is just such a necessity for what I have to do. Like, what am I willing to give up for something greater than how I feel in the moment, you know?
So
Yeah.
do they actually call them like Tanith, like the ones that they
The new
recruit?
ones?
Do
Yeah.
they still call them Tanith, or is it just like
So it's actually that's a pretty big issue within because to Eric's point of with Gaunt being like, I don't really, it shows, or it's written that he favors the original Tanith.
Of course, yeah.
And and people are like his other commissars are like, hey, you need to treat these guys just the same because, without giving too much away, there's like a courts martial happening, and the guys are like, Gaunt is like, oh yeah, he's guilty, F him, whatever, I don't care. And everyone's like, hey, you're only saying that because he's not a man of Tanith. And then like it's like a whole couple chapters of Gaunt being like, oh shit, you're right, I gotta treat them equally.
Okay.
But yeah, so eventually they all merge into like they're not true Tanith, but it's the Tanith,
Yeah.
And then
okay.
So like their battle cry is still, men of Tanith, do you want to live forever? It's not like men of Tanith and Belladon and you other guys and
Sure.
No, it's Men of Tanith and friends.
Cool.
all of you, at everyone, do you want to live forever?
Anything else you want to share about Gaunt's Ghost specifically?
Read the books if you haven't. If you're interested in Guard at all and want a story that's going to take you a long time to read, pick it up.
Do you have a favorite book in that series?
Well, it's kind of hard because I have the Omnibuy, so I don't actually get like the. Actually, you know what? Damn, I can't think of the name, but yeah, they assault a spaceport.
Okay.
And they assault the spaceport. It's a suicide mission. It's the one where Gaunt has the 3 Space Marines with him, and I like it because it's a suicide mission that they're not coming back from, and so it shows that really well. It shows there's a lot of different personalities. It shows a lot of the really good infighting between the Guard leadership. Like, oh no, we're going to have the honor of the first assault. Well, I don't think you should because, okay, well, you and your ruffians can stay in the back. I'm gonna, and then you're like, oh, that doesn't end well. And then it also shows just how badass a Space Marine is because like the one's got a boarding shield and he's like, don't worry, I'll take all 100 of these guys. But it's subtle enough that you're not like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have to think of what that one is called.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
How many minutes can we fill of just us trying to find this book? Probably quite a few.
Yeah, I can't find it. I googled Tanith assaults a spaceport, but all I'm getting is just imaging. But yeah, anyways. So next thing we know you really like is Ultramarines. Oh
yeah.
You're a fanboy, and that's a very controversial opinion for some reason in 40K.
Yeah, well, people are dumb.
People are dumb. I've said it many times.
Wait, don't you hate Ultramarine fanboys?
Oh, I hate the fanboys.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes.
So when you said like, oh, apparently that's a controversial thing. What you should have said was, and I hate you.
Yeah. Yes.
See, the key is you got to cement the friendship and then just kind of slide it in, like, oh, by the way.
Yeah. You build a relationship first. Like if they find out you're a serial killer halfway into the friendship, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right? You can't lead with, hey, also, by the way, I kill people and take their ears.
Yeah.
Right?
Oddly
strategy.
So what do you like about the Ultramarines?
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to interrupt really quick.
Yeah.
Someone said Salvation Reach. Is that the right?
Thank you. Yes, Salvation's Reach, because that's the name of the station. Yes, thank you very much, kind person.
Thank you, TM Cox, 1987.
Gotta love technology.
Anyway, sorry, Ultramarines.
There's a lot that I like about Ultramarines. It was the first Space Marine books that I read after I was kind of like I know what 40K is now, because the first actual Space Marine books I read was Blood Angels, but I didn't really know what I was reading.
Sure.
I read the Uriel Ventress books.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like another really beloved series.
Yeah. And it's because so I hear a lot of the issues that people have with Ultramarines is pure unadulterated jealousy, but then also like they're vanilla Marines, which I can kind of see because they don't have any one really specific area they excel at. But anyway, I like those books because Uriel Ventress he's not a drone.
Yeah.
He actually gets in trouble for using his head, and he's like, well, I know this isn't strictly codex compliant, but I'm gonna do this. You guys talked about it on one of your episodes where he like suits up with the Death Watch and assaults a Tyranid bio ship or something.
Yeah.
So I like that, but also I like him because he's not like, I'm the best at X. Like you've got Cato Sicarius, I'm the best swordsman. You've got Scout Sergeant.
I love
Cato Sicarius memes.
I mean,
That's one of the best memes.
He is a great meme, but I like that Ventress. He's not like, oh, I'm the greatest at this. Like he has to have people around him that are experts at what they do that make him better. And at one point in the story, his command squad, he fills it out with people that they shore up his weaknesses, and I like that because I've never liked the idea of, oh, I'm one person and I'm going to be the best at this and I'm going to kill you all, because it's always written to where, like, whenever I read about Cato Sicarius, oh, I'm going to murder all 100 of these people with my sword. I'm like, did none of you try to shoot him? Like,
that's right.
All right, guys, let's just wait in line for him. Oh, it's my turn now. And I liked it.
It's Cato Sicarius. Whatever he says is what's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's I like the Ventress. He's not the greatest at basically anything. He's an average skill captain, which is still saying a lot because he's a captain.
Yeah.
But his strength is his head and his ability to say like, hey, I know the Codex doesn't strictly say we should do this, but I'm going to do it. And that's what gets him. That's what like wins him the situation. And it's also what got him in trouble.
Do we know if he's still around in 40K now?
So if you follow me on the Discord, someone was asking about books to read, and I mentioned Ultramarines, and he brought up it's a short story in the Black Library anniversary day, whatever they do every year, 2019, I believe.
Okay.
And the short story is called Death of Uriel Ventress, which part of me doesn't believe it's canon, but I refuse to look it up because if he is, I'll be crushed. But he brought
that's like a misleading title. Like really, his innocence died or something like that.
No, he apparently, because I've read the synopsis of the book, and he does die in the book.
Crazy.
Well, in the short story, I should say. But I feel bad for the guy because he was just asking for advice, and I was like, "You're dead to me." he's like, "What did I do?" I was like, "No, I'm just kidding." But so as of the Dark Imperium, he was still alive.
Okay.
And there hasn't been, with the exception of that short story, there hasn't been anything else written about him. But in the newest codex, I believe he's still labeled as the Fourth Company captain.
Interesting. Okay, so the author of Death of Ventress was Graham McNeil, which is like one of the
He's pretty well known, yeah.
Yeah, and it was in 2018. I'd say that's pretty canon, but it's nice to hold out hope.
It's nice to convince yourself that your head canon is more important than real canon.
Yeah, but then I keep looking at other things, and it's like the current.
Yeah.
But Ventress can't be the only thing that you love about Ultramarines.
No, definitely not. I like that, and this is a personal thing for me. It has nothing to do with 40K. So I'm in the military. I'm in the Air Force, and I joined the military because I was like, oh, a sense of honor and duty and commitment and all that. And then I got in and I was like, oh, this is not at all like you have those moments.
U.S. military.
Oh, Jesus, don't even. And so, but don't get me wrong, it's great. You have those moments that you're like, God, I'm so proud of what I did or whatever. But it goes back to no one ever tells you the bad things that happen, right? So I grew up, my family's a military family. I grew up hearing all these stories, right?
Yeah.
No one ever talks about the bad stuff. But anyway, so I really like the sense of honor and duty that the Ultramarines have. That's one thing that I can kind of connect with them on a personal level with, as much as you can connect with a fictional chapter of Space Marines. But I really like that about them. I like that, for better or worse, they try to do right by the people and their moral code. Because there's those like the flesh tears. They're like, oh, I don't care, I just want to kill people, or any number of chapters that's like they have this whatever.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that they don't have that.
I love how you're describing like any other chapter, whatever. I don't care. Theirs is dumb.
I don't.
Mine is cool.
I don't care. No, I know that there's other chapters like that, like the salamanders.
No,
apparently.
of course.
But I like the Ultramarines. And there's also a little strategic thinking in there.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Ultramarines, so I don't ever have to wait for releases. I don't ever have to beg for, oh my God, please release this.
I hope
I'm just like,
Ultramarines get an update.
yeah, like, oh hey, whose Primarch is back and whose isn't? Ooh.
Rogaldorn's coming back. Don't worry about it.
Oh my! Have you seen there's a custom sculpt someone did of him, like, hey, this is what we want him to come back as, and he's got like the eye patch and the robotic arm. And
no, I don't think I've seen that.
Oh man, you need to Google it because it made me want to like the Imperial Fists.
I already like them, so that's enough for me. Maybe after the episode, you'll have to find it and send it to me.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll post it because it's really good.
You like the Ultramarines. There's a little bit of a selfish reason in there, but there's also just like you like their military mentality.
Yes.
I can get that.
Yeah.
Some chapters are cool, but others just like take it a little over the top with their flavor.
Yeah.
Their flavor.
Are you talking about Black Templar, Mark?
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like some are just like a little too over the top, a little too unrealistic, which is a weird thing to say in 40K. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example of one.
No, I think I think the greatest appeal of the Ultramarines is that they're the most relatable.
Yeah.
Of all the chapters out there.
Not everyone wants to relate to Space Vikings.
Exactly.
Sure.
But everyone.
Oh my God.
Like everyone can relate to the generic idea of like a noble, military, honorable, respectful force. Like they're built so well, like suited for that generic role. And not even saying that they are generic, but it's like, it's what you'd expect the perfect soldier to be is the Ultramarines. And I think that's why a lot of people really gravitate toward them.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example is the Space Wolves. I've said that and you even like shuddered. They take it a little over the top.
I don't care for the Space Wolves. And I'm sorry, but I have yet to have a decent interaction with someone who is a Space Wolf fan.
Are they always yipping at you or something?
Yeah. Are they smelling your head or what?
Okay, so I told the story on the Discord a couple days ago, but I'll shorten it up for you guys. But I was at my local hobby store picking up the Space Marine half of the Shadow Spear box.
Yeah.
And I was walking past these guys that were playing, and one was Space Wolves. And if I see good models, I'm going to comment on them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's something that our hobby is really good at, but that's at the same time really terrible at, like not commenting enough. And I was like, hey man, those are some really cool models.
Yeah.
And it was like the first army I'd ever seen where everyone was painted and based.
Wow.
But anyway,
that is rare.
Anyway, and so he was like, oh, hey, cool, thanks. And then he saw my shadow spirit thing. And he's like, oh, Space Marines, what are you going to do? And I was like, Ultramarines. And then like, that's where it started. He was like, oh, Ultramarines. Okay. And I was like, and normally I just let it go, but I was feeling froggy. So I was like,
I was feeling froggy.
Had a couple of
yeah, I was
in
feeling froggy, feeling froggy, leap. But anyway, I was like, well, what's wrong with the Ultramarines? And he said the same generic stuff, oh, they're vanilla. Oh, they're this and that. He brought up Matt Ward, which, full disclosure, I was not in the hobby with Matt Ward. And I think it was second edition Codex, so I don't know anything about that. Because I guess based on his writing, there's legitimate gripes about the Ultramarines, but whatever. He brought that up. And then he also brought up, he was like, oh, they break the codex and they're doing this and that. And I was like, well, hold on. I was like, their Primarch wrote the codex. Like, I feel like he, if anyone, is allowed to change it, right? Like, first of all, he's the most powerful man in the Imperium. Secondly, he's the author. You can rewrite it.
Yeah.
But I took it one step further and I was like, you're a Space Wolves fan. Like, what? You can't get mad at someone for not following the codex, person who didn't follow the codex or
companies,
or the Edict of Nicaea, or the you have mutations, we must murder you. And I brought that up and he was just like, I forget what he said, but I was like, all right, dude, I gotta leave, because you're just I can't argue with someone who is gonna like, oh no, we started talking about because I brought up that they went to war with the Inquisition and the Grey Knights.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, they really beat their ass and they had them running. And I was like, well, first of all, you guys caused trillions more deaths than there needed to be.
People like trillions of deaths.
You're not
you guys.
Yeah, like, come on. And at that point I was like, I gotta go. Like, I can't. I've already been here for too long.
Yeah. I find the weird thing about Space Wolves, if you're going to be a Space Wolf player, you should lean into it. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm a Space Wolf, like we're such a good Marine. Like, no. Space Wolves are very bad at being Space Marines, but they are very good at being Space Wolves.
Sure.
And I think like that's what you have to lean into. Like, who gives a shit? Like a Space Wolf shouldn't care about the Codex.
Yeah.
But that also means that when they meet an Ultramarine player or an Imperial Fist, they should also not care that they don't do Space Wolf. Like, they don't follow the Codex.
Yeah.
Like, it seems weird to me that like that would be like a complaint that a Space Wolf would have.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care about it, so why should they care if anyone else cares about it, right? Like that. I don't know. Well, if you're gonna be Space Wolf, lean into it.
Put your wolves on wolves and get wolfing.
Here's my 2 cents about that. I think they do lean into it, right? Because Space Wolves think that they're better than everyone, right? Like, look, 30K up to now, it's always, oh well, we the Space Wolves, we're gonna watch over you, the Primarch, to make sure you're not doing anything, to make sure you're not breaking the Edicts of Nicaea. Like, they think they're better than everyone, and so I think that. I know I'm making so many people mad right now, but the Space Wolf players are like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm a Space Wolf player. And then me being an Ultramarine player, like, it's an easy target, shoot your shot.
It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. So, and Space Wolves are hypocrites, but whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the few chapters that I really would have a tough time wrapping myself around.
Yeah.
There's just, it seems like it's been written by a couple people that very obviously disregarded many of the set things that represent Space Marines.
Sure.
And those couple things grow and grow and grow until now you have something that is very different from what might have been their intentional representation. And that's a little tough for me.
Which is crazy because Space Vikings is such a cool concept, and it's like, you guys were so close. Like, you were so close to being the coolest thing in this entire universe, and then you just took it like, so there's a line, right? And there's that line. What the Space Wolves did was they built a catapult and shot themselves across the line.
Like Space Wolves in 30K are really cool because it's like they're more that Space Viking.
The Space Viking is way better aspect than the space wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me that's awesome. And carving runes in like armor and like the fetishes and like that is so cool. And then they take it that extra step and he growled in disbelief. Like what? No, that reminds me of like when I was in first grade and we would pretend to be dogs in first grade. Like it's acceptable when you're 4. It's not acceptable when you're a space marine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
our next talking point. We can't piss off too many Space Wolf players, so we'll move on. Instead, we're going to piss off me, and we're going to talk about why Primaris are the best.
Yes.
You have 1 minute to sell me on Primaris. If not, off the podcast. I'm taking away your purple tag.
We can talk about this later. It'll kind of help my thing right now. But Primaris are the best because they are giving new life into the galaxy. They're giving new life into the hobby setting. Yeah. They are bigger, better, stronger, faster, technologic for all you Daft Punk fans out there. And honestly, the Son of God said, "Do it." So who are we to argue with that?
We just released a Primaris episode, and the one thing I took away from it was definitely that, like, that breath of new air, that breath of hope in 40K that the Primaris bring. We talked about it a little bit, but yeah, that was the one thing where I'm like, yeah, that is kind of nice, actually. I don't like how they did it.
If only that it gets set up to be squashed later.
Sure.
Right? Like,
so we can circle back to that because I have a theory and I think it's awesome. But and I was listening to the Primaris episode before this, and you mentioned, and I think you hit it on the head, that their lore started out wonky and full of holes, but it's been 2 years now. I think they've kind of, maybe not acceptably, but they've patched a lot of those holes now.
It's getting better and better the more they write.
Because I remember when they first came out and I'd be talking to you about it, I would have like 3 talking points and you'd be like, "No, shut your mouth. That is unacceptable." And I was like, okay. Like I would bring up the point.
And now there's only one talking point that I'm unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
And that's
I remember. I had brought up the point of, well, yeah, they had all these Primaris Marines come, but they didn't do well. Like, and you touched on it in the episode. Like they were slaughtered in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, but yeah, I like Primaris lore setting. I like them. I like some of the interactions that the authors have done with Primaris Marines and the old Marines. I like them in the tabletop setting. I think the models are, and I think this is something we can all agree on, the models are slick. They look really, really good.
People always say I have to agree on that. I disagree.
You don't think the Intercessor?
I didn't say you have to.
One of their models is cool. I think like 90% of their range is dorky as fuck.
What's the one model? Is it the Intercessor?
Yeah, their original base Intercessor
with the bolt rifle.
Amazing.
So good.
But the rest of them is
okay.
I find just janky and weird about
not
them.
all of them. Not
so
vehicles. Get past the grav. Because personally, I'm not a fan of grav with Space Marines.
Yep.
But if you grav is there.
Yep.
The vehicles look cool.
Sure.
Too many guns, obviously.
Do they look cooler than a Land Raider? Not necessarily, maybe.
That's an aesthetic question, sure. I think. Do you like the track stuck in the past, or do you like embracing the new technology? That, like, the kit itself looks good. Whether you think it fits Space Marines or not, that's a value. It's your judgment, right?
Yeah.
But I do agree that there are some models in the Primaris range that I think are silly. I think silly is the best word for me to describe them, because they're well done. They're crisp. They're clean. I get what they're going for. Yeah. I still think it's silly.
Yeah.
So I misspoke. I'm sorry. I said their models look slick. Some of them do look slick, but some of them are really odd. Like the Incessors, like those look kind of weird. I meant like the sculpts themselves, like the quality of the model looks a lot better.
The proportions are way better.
Definitely.
Sure, yeah.
Yes. I like the proportions.
Yeah.
But I agree with Eric. I like the grav tank, the grav part of it. I'm kind of, but I do like it. But I'm also a progress guy. I love progress.
Yeah. No, fair enough. My overall rating, I'm going to give him a 4.5.
Flukels? 4.5 flukels?
Narbucks.
Narbucks. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yes.
Out of a million.
And once again, it's you count backwards on this scale.
But
so
you know what? Every single time we mention Primaris, Mark is salty a little less. and a little less. Yeah. And he concedes one more thing every time you mention it.
Oh my God.
If you give us 3-4 more years, you're going to be singing Primaris's praises. I can feel it.
Like, really, Lorehammer has all just been therapy for me to get over Primaris. There is a very real coincidence of when we started and when Primaris were released. So, eventually I'll work through my issues.
About the time that they released the Primaris Marine.
That's right.
We came up with the term. It's Supraris Primaris.
It's Supris Primaris.
Supris Primaris. Yes. Yeah.
I like it.
So our next talking point is, why is Robbie G the best Primarch to save the Imperium? Once again, sell me on this.
We need you on the podcast more often, Woody, just so there's another person to argue with Mark.
I argue with Mark all the time, and it's the highlight of I'm sad that I can't have my phone at work because I used to send him messages all day, every day.
You would send him mixed messages. Oh my!
Also that. No, our relationship had to build into that. I asked him how he was doing one time, and he was like, "Shut up! Don't talk to me like that."
The mixed message was you telling him that you were an Ultramarine fan.
I like that.
He was like, "Wait, but I thought we were friends."
but okay,
yeah,
frenemies.
So Reboot Gilliman,
why do you think he's the best?
I think Reboot Gilliman is the best initial Primarch to save the Imperium, to bring them out of their dark age, because he was, again, the most vanilla. He didn't lean any one way of like anger or I'm just going to go take the fight to the enemy. He was very practical, very, that's kind of the joke of Ultramarines, is theoretical practical. He's a logistics genius.
Like Lionel Johnson, like amazing war master, not really amazing at running the day-to-day of the Imperium. In fact, he hated that.
Sanguinius, very charismatic, super personable. Is he the best for crunching numbers on how
he's dead?
Right. Yeah, so, absolutely.
Not yet.
So take Vulcan then.
Yeah.
Right? Like the most, is he the best war leader, like to command thousands of campaigns at once? Like maybe not, right? Like no, I do agree with you, and I'm pretty sure we might have said this before, but
I think so.
Reboot's generic ability, like the fact that he's just well-rounded, definitely makes him the best choice.
Yeah.
Other than Rogel Dorn.
Rogel Dorn comes back. He's just like, let's go on an eternal crusade.
That's right.
Yeah. And then they do that forever, which is fun until it's not. And everyone dies out because you're crusading all day, every day.
It's fun until he runs into the Iron Warriors and then never leaves that planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. He is the best. He's the most well-rounded and best at not the best at everything.
No, but he is the best fit.
Yeah.
He is good enough at everything. And I like that about him.
Yeah, good enough.
Good enough for a Primarch. Like he's still
he's still better than any of us at everything.
Yes. But I think going forward, I'd like to see some other Primarchs come back. But I've also, if anyone's read the actual like Dark Imperium, the Plague Wars, whatever Dark Imperium 2 is, Robbie G is actually evolving, and I'm really interested to see how that story goes.
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool that he's actually changing.
Yes. Losing a lot of faith in the Imperium.
I do like that. Man, he's had some of my favorite quotes of all time in 40K.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like the whole when he wakes up, he's like, why do I still live? Like,
why have you brought me back?
Like this? Yeah. Or the other one.
Yeah.
Just that.
That was a badass scene when he gets up off the throne and he's just like, don't know what's going on, but I see a lot of black fighting a lot of blue. Let's just go on a murder spree. And he does.
Yeah. So you have a crazy conspiracy. no, you have your, what would you call this? Your orcs versus nids fighting. Ideal
Oh man,
outcome.
my theory.
You what?
My resetting the 40K setting back to pre 8th edition with
Okay.
all the 8th edition assets still in play. So I forget what planet it was or what system it was, but you guys had mentioned it on one of your episodes where the orcs and Tyranids are basically fighting an eternal war or an eternal battle, and it's gotten so big that like through the power of the Wa or whatever, orcs are like, I don't know why, but I want to go here. And then they get there and they're like, oh yeah, it's crumpin' time. So my theory is, it's documented that the more orcs fight, the bigger they get.
Yeah.
The more Tyranids fight the same enemy, the more they adapt. So it's reasonable to assume orcs are getting bigger, stronger, smarter. Tyranids are getting bigger, stronger, smarter. So my theory is that they fight and fight and fight until all of a sudden we have prime orcs and we have prime nids, I guess, prime orc-sized nids.
Yeah.
But it's not just one prime orc. It's like now you have a bunch of prime orcs, like the beast series times 100. And eventually the orcs win out because the nids they're running out of biomass because orcs are getting bigger. They're not killing them as fast. Nids run out of biomass. That takes care of the fact that the nids should have swept the galaxy under the rug like 5 seconds after they showed up. But oh no, now we have basically a beast event. And during the time of them fighting, more Primarchs have come back. And I don't know who's come back, but more Primarchs have come back. So now the Imperium's like, oh my God, look, we're saved. All these sons of the Emperor are back. And enough of them come back and they rally the Imperium and they get everything good to where they push back chaos. They banish the Chaos Primarchs back to the warp or whatever. They close the rift, or the closest they can do to close the rift. So now we have almost a full strength Imperium fighting crazy Primorphs. And they then the details, that would be in the authors for the writing, but eventually the orcs are slowly pushing the Imperium back to the homeworld. And I mean, Space Marines are taking heavy losses, Primarchs are dying to the point where eventually the Imperium wins, but at the cost of all the Primarchs, all the Prime Orcs are dead. Like the orc threat is defeated for now, but now all the Primarchs are dead, and the Space Marine legions, because let's face it, it's legions now, are decimated, like back to like barely even chapter strength. And for all you grimdark people out there, imagine being in the Imperium, seeing all these sons of Jesus or God come back and then die.
Yeah.
It forces the Imperium back into a dark age. The Adeptus Ministorum is like, see, it's because you guys weren't faithful. So the religious aspect of it takes over again, and then so lore wise, boom, you're back to pre 8th edition where everything is grimdark. The Imperium's on the back foot. You're gonna have to just accept Primaris. I'm sorry, they're not going away, but the Primarchs are going away. The Tyranid threat is going away because even a splinter fleet of Tyranids is still a threat, but it gives a little more credence to why they haven't taken over the galaxy yet.
So my only question would be, why do you hurt me?
I'm sorry. I think it would be awesome.
What? Sorry, what happened? I think I missed it. What happens to chaos in this battle?
Oh, so so while the orcs and the Tyranids are fighting, the Imperium, like, they fight and push back chaos. They banish them back to the warp for 1,000 years or whatever the rules of the warp are. I was mainly focusing on the orc and Tyranid aspect of it. You'd have to, because I'm I love it, but I'm also kind of tired of Imperium chaos. Like, it seems to me that, and granted, it's my choice that's what I read, but it seems to me like that's all you see on the tabletop anymore. And before everyone goes, well, it's because that's what GW is pushing. I'm aware. I'm aware that all these other factions are not getting, releases. But again, Ultramarines don't have to worry about that.
Because you get all the releases.
I get all the releases, baby. But yeah, so and that could be another huge thing too. Is like a huge. Well, we're kind of already leaning into it, but a huge aspect of the lore is Imperium Chaos, and then you could have another huge aspect of Orc and Nids, and you could have another huge aspect of the Silent King is awakening, and the Eldar are, Ynnari just came back, so it's like, well, okay, now they're going to fight because they're like, hey, remember that one time War in Heaven type deal?
Yeah,
let's duke it out.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's setting up. I feel like Games Workshop and Black Library are setting us up for like just this awesome, just battle royale type mosh pit of fighting. And I think that the end game could be it resets the setting.
That's a long workaround answer.
Sorry.
No. It's not on you.
It's Mark's.
It's also airtight.
So do you like the idea of Prime Orcs then? In general, you want to see them kind of come into being?
Prime Orcs.
That's
yes.
maybe what I said.
I do like that idea because I feel like orcs are laughed at more often. I feel like people don't take orcs seriously, and I had this conversation on the Discord, because whenever people think of the orcs, they're like, oh, it's Crumpin' time.
Yeah.
And, they're dumb, and you've got like this Cockney accent, and but when you think about it, orcs are actually terrifying.
Oh yes.
So I think the most terrifying thing would be Prime Orcs, and a smart orc is terrifying. In the Beast series, the orcs send an ambassador to Terra, and that orc is disappointed in the High Lords. And to me, that was one of the most scary, terrifying things of that whole series. You have an orc who's like, we gave you guys a chance, you really disappoint me. And you're like, wait a minute, you're an orc. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have talked about that recently, even with Dylan, about the fact that like orcs they don't seem to be taken seriously outside of the universe, and that it kind of ruins a lot of maybe not ruins, but it changes
from the brutality of it all.
That's exactly, it distracts. It takes away from how absolutely terrifying orcs are.
Yeah.
Because the Beast series, for anyone who's read it, or not read it rather, it does a really good job of making the orcs scary again.
Yeah.
Like, they have slave pens of humans so that they can eat them. And, they've ripped out all their teeth and they force feed them like gruel. And, the Space Marines walk in on this scene, and even the Space Marines are like, oh my God. And you're like, that's insane. But nowadays it's like, oh, haha, look at this dumb orc and his stupid accent. Let me throw a rock and kill him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm mixed on the Prime Orcs.
Prime Orcs. Unfortunately, I'd have to say no to Prime Orcs.
We're going to have to give you an X.
Oh.
No, I don't. If there were Prime Orcs, I would not want to see a tabletop representation of them.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
But I know that so many people would, like the majority, I don't know the majority, they would sell. Okay.
Oh, yes.
People would buy them if Games Workshop made them. And so Games Workshop would obviously at that point make them. And I think that would be a big thing, a no thing for me, is I don't want to see these big orc models on the tabletop.
I always just struggle. What's the difference between a really big fucking war boss and a Prime Orc?
Intelligence, I think.
Yeah,
but like there are intelligence war bosses. Like
I think it's like it's higher intelligence.
Sure.
That's like, and war bosses are tactical, and they can even have foresight and make very rational and shrewd decisions.
Yeah.
But are they solving philosophical equations? Are they solving hunger? Are they I don't know, are they establishing like 50 years in advance trade routes, or forging alliances, or I don't know, like that seems to be something that never happens with orcs.
Yeah.
And I think that's the level. It turns orcs away from a horde into a new race, just like Tau or humanity or something like that. And I think that takes away from some orkiness.
there are like
For
full
sure.
orc empires, so
Absolutely.
that would have that
Absolutely.
kind of thing.
Right. But are they building like beautifully architectural spires with pleasing like
okay.
right? Like that's intelligence, right? Whereas they're
Sure.
just building things ramshackle. Like, yes, they have empires with 50 planets.
All art is
of
beautiful.
all of those 50 planets in the empire look the same, just like trash.
Sure.
Right? That's the difference, I
Sure,
think.
sure. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, Woody, is there any other things you've always wanted to tell me? Now that we have you on, is there any deep dark secrets you want to share to the world?
Tau have been possessed. I mean, you've kind of covered that recently, but when I first found out about it, you guys were arguing about whether it was possible. So there have been demon possessed Tau.
Apparently.
The ethereals, I don't believe that their control over the Tau is psychic.
Ah, good man.
Because in the Commissar Kane series, his aide is a blank.
Yeah.
And they interact with Tau all the time. And when they walk into the blank field, I guess, the Tau aren't like, ethereal, what?
Yeah.
Is he a blank or a pariah?
Warp energy there's a null. He's like a Sister of Silence.
Okay,
there's a null field around
pariah.
Okay.
Yeah. Blanks are used as like they absorb psychic things that are aimed at them. So Inquisitors use them as like shields, but they don't create nearly the same dampening field effect that pariahs do.
Okay.
But they still do a field. That's like saying
no. I think like they literally have to get in the way of psychic attacks. I think they physically have to do it. Like blanks, I think if you pass a blank on the street, you might not know it. But if you pass a pariah on the street, you definitely feel it, even if you aren't a psyker. But I think if you're not a psyker and you pass a blank, you might not know it. I think it's just a level difference.
Yeah, but
what if the bubble is only 30 centimeters around you?
Yeah, but ultimately they're the exact same thing. Just
no, because I don't think Sisters of Silence would accept blanks into their ranks. I think they are specifically pariahs.
They're okay. Well, I don't want to get into this
now. No need right now.
Not in front of somebody new. It's like watching the old married couple fight, and you just stand there awkwardly.
I'm loving it. I fight away.
I think I got one quote here that basically sums up how I feel about this podcast. I will tweak one word in it, but we'll leave you on this note. What more do you want from me? I gave everything I had to you, to them. Look what they've made of our dream. This bloated, rotting carcass of an empire is driven not by reason and hope, but by fear, hate, and ignorance. Better we had burned in the fires of Eric's ambition. And all live to see this. So that pretty much sums up how I feel about Lorehammer right now and what it's become.
This is your ambition, not mine.
Well, Woody, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Real quick, I did promise Marcy that I would ask you to say garage.
Garage.
Because she, for some reason, loves the way that you say garage.
Yeah, garage.
Yeah, just like that.
Is that weird?
Garage.
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 Garage?
Gatorade?
Garage. Well, now that I've said it 100 times.
Garage.
And a garage to you.
But no, thank you guys so much for having me. It was awesome. I have been wanting to get on the podcast for a while. You guys are the best.
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like you actually had a trip planned to come visit us at the end of April, but now with all this Corona, it's like, fuck.
Yep. # Rona 2020.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you still make it up eventually. So we'll have you on again when you do.
Still planned for it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, buddy. You take her easy.
Thank you, Woody.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.